In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 toxic traits that women cannot help but be attracted to. These 3 traits are things that you're told not to have. They're dismissiveness, their dominance, and the third one is unapologeticness. These all fall into the category of toxic masculinity, and yet they're all things that women on just a subconscious, emotional level can't help but be attracted to. And that might not be fair, it might not be right, but it is what it is. Just like how women prefer taller men, there's no logical reason for that, but it just is what it is. So let's talk about the first one, dismissiveness. Dismissiveness, in a Freudian kind of way of looking at it, is the idea of being willing to walk away, of being unattached, of not really needing the girl, right? Giving her the feeling that you might leave. Now, some people would say this is attractive because it reminds her of her father growing up or whatever. It doesn't really matter whether that's a true theory or just, bullshit. It is, however, attractive for a couple other psychological reasons. One is that most men, especially the more attractive the girl, get kind of needy and pushy. So women are used to pulling away. They're used to a guy pursuing, and they have to decide, maybe I'll let him. But a lot of times, the guy starts to make her uncomfortable by just being too pushy, too persistent, not reading the signs that she's not interested. And she feels like a certain discomfort, a certain hesitation about spending time with any guy or flirting with a guy or going home with them because she's worried you're going to fall into that category. And so dismissiveness is a counter to this. Basically what it is about is showing, and you can do this in different ways. Partly it's just the overall vibe that you give off, but you can say, for example, like when a girl says her job, you're like, oh, it was nice meeting you. Or she says her age, oh, it was nice meeting you, and pretend to walk away. That's an example of being dismissive. And what you'll find is the more you are dismissive, the more women will start to feel a role reversal to where they start pursuing you and they start to feel like you're willing to walk away. Now, to some degree, this has to be real. This has to be about having standards. And for me, examples would be like, if a girl is annoying or she talks too much about toxic masculinity and political crap that I don't care for, or she just, isn't interesting, is too narcissistic, etc., I will walk away, right? If she's not interesting, I will leave even if she's hot. And so that helps you carry yourself in that way. And also the more women you're meeting, the more opportunities you're getting by approaching online dating, etc., the more you just kind of get the aura of dismissiveness where women feel like you're not needy, not overly attached. Another way to show this that I think is really useful is anytime you escalate, because generally you're going to have to be the one to take the lead, right? You're going to have to be the one to do the approach, to make the first move in terms of going for the kiss, inviting the girl home, etc. But you can also be the first to take a step back. So what this means, if I start making out with a girl, I'll stop making out with her well before she actually wants me to, right? So I'm not attached to it. I'm not like, oh, so excited. I'm leaving, or I'm getting rid of that escalation, or I'm de-escalating before she wants me to. And that makes her feel that I'm not overly attached. Or even once I find out the best situation with a particular girl is to get her number, not to try to take her home, what I'll do is leave well before, leave the interaction well before she really wants me to leave. A lot of guys will just, keep talking as long as they possibly can get the girl to talk, but it kind of makes you seem clingy, right? Seem needy. That's the first trait, dismissiveness. Number 2 is dominance. And this one maybe is the most obvious, but so few men are willing to use this trait. They're afraid of it because it's been conditioned out of you. You've been conditioned, I think, through education, largely through, high school, etc. And jobs, you're used to listening to the teacher, being quiet, basically being kind of submissive, right? Being at the effect and not the cause. But women, when it comes to dating, when it comes to sex, that's not their fantasy unless they're, in the BDSM or they're a dominatrix or something like that. That's rarely a woman's fantasy to be the asserter, if you will, to be the one making the first move, to be the one who's dominant, taking the lead, etc. And that's why 50 Shades of Grey is the best-selling book of the 2010s. It's all about dominance. It's about a man who is extremely dominant to the point of kind of craziness, and the woman is able to completely let go. It's a freeing kind of feeling to be along for the ride, basically. And that gets rid of the anxiety, the overthinking, and it lets you just experience something for its own sake, to just be fully enmeshed in the experience of, a seduction or of hooking up with someone. And if neither you or the woman are dominant at all, it becomes inert. There's no charge. There's no polarity. And so, society basically says that, men are not supposed to be more dominant than women, that you're supposed to be respectful, nice, etc. And I'm not saying you're supposed to be disrespectful, but dominance is the number one sexual fantasy. It's why the list, if you look at it, of women's sexual fantasies includes werewolves, pirates, vampires, being dominated. That's the top ones. And it's also something that is more rare in today's world than ever before. And what dominance is about more than anything is the way you carry yourself. It's about your sub-communications. Is your voice going up at the end of sentences where you're like, hi, how's it going? Right? You sound kind of submissive, subservient. Or is it, hey, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Right? There's a very big difference in the way each of those come across. And most men, and I know this because I do in-person coaching where I'll film clients, most guys are much more like the former example, right? They're just kind of apologetic for their own existence. They're not taking charge in any way. And they're also not willing to take the lead or move things forward, which is a dominant thing to do, right? It's the whole idea of being swept off your feet. Well, that inherently means that you're being led. So the fantasy involves being led, but most men, they just don't do it. And it's funny. There's so many guys who they'll approach a girl and she'll be into him, but he's unwilling to take the lead. He carries himself in a way that's apologetic and just nice guy. And then her attraction, you can see it go down minute after minute, and she just completely loses interest. It's happened to me plenty of times in the past where a girl was into me, but she just didn't feel that dominance. So it's how you look at a girl in the eyes. It's the tone in your voice. It's your body language. Does it say dominance or does it say submissive, uncertain, etc.? The third trait is unapologeticness. Now, what I mean by this is that you know what you want and you have no shame or fear about going for it, right? So what I mean is you see this woman as attractive and you're not afraid to make that clear. You're not afraid to feel turned on while interacting with her, right? You're not worried about, like, if I make a move, oh no, she might reject me. You make the move, right? You're unapologetic about it. You're willing to get rejected. You're willing to take the risks, and you don't see it as, some affront to humanity to put yourself out there, to be sexual. And that is something that is very rare today, like this unapologetic energy where you know what you want. And it doesn't mean, to be clear, like if a girl is giving you negative signs, it doesn't mean that you don't respect it and back off, but you're willing to go for it in the first place. You're willing to make your intentions clear and put your ego on the line to risk rejection, to really risk rejection by the way that you act. You're willing to do that. A good test as to whether or not you have this trait is how often, first of all, do you approach women? Because the fact that you don't approach them is in itself a form of apologeticness if you think about it, because you think she might not like you or be bothered or whatever. So that's being apologetic in itself. But when you do approach women, how often do you invite them home? How often do you actually go for it? And if the answer is never or almost never, which will be true for the vast majority of men, that's a big part of the reason why you're not having the success that you want. And that's the metric that you want to start thinking about, actually putting yourself out there, doing direct approaches where you make it very clear that you're flirting, that you're hitting on the girl, and actually inviting women home when they seem interested instead of just rejecting yourself, which is sadly what the vast majority of men do. So those are the 3 toxic traits that women can't help but find attractive. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to learn more about how to instill these traits in your own life and to make more progress in terms of the tangible results that you're getting in dating in just 3 days than most guys get in an entire year, click the link below to learn more about working with me in person.